On this episode of Lunduke Show, we're going to be reviewing Copperhead OS, a sort of secure, non-googly version of Android, brought to you in part by Pogo Linux. If you go over to pogolinux.com, Epic servers, ARM servers, Intel Xeon servers, 1U servers, 2U servers, 4U servers, 6U servers, couple of drives, 60 drives, little bit of RAM, 8 terabytes of RAM, software-defined storage. They guys got you covered. pogolinux.com. All right, let's talk about Copperhead OS. Let's talk about this a little bit. Now, for those of you who don't know what Copperhead OS is, it is quite simply a security-focused Android-based operating system. So they take the open source Android project, they backport patches to it, they try and secure it as much as possible, they remove all of the googliness from it. It's gone. It's de-googlied, right? So there's no Play Store, there's no Google Chrome, there's no Hangouts, none of that, no Google Play services. It's all gone, which is both delightful and problematic, as if you're using Android currently, you probably are relying on a whole heck of a lot of those applications and services. But Copperhead OS has none of those. And for me, that's just about right. This is what it looks like by default. It's simple. It's Android. It's a nice looking, fairly modern Android version, just with nothing googly. You'll notice the most googly thing that's on there is Chromium, the open source, non-Google produced version of the Chrome web browser. But even that, you don't even need. I mean, you can get rid of that if you want it. But it is what it is, right? It looks fine. And so this is Android without Google, is essentially what it boils down to. There's more to it than that. I mean, it's been secured, it's been hardened, they've increased the SE Linux stuff. I mean, it is somewhat secure comparatively, but the key thing here is that it's not with Google. Now, and it runs only on a couple of different phones right now. The Pixel XL, the Nexus 5X, and the Nexus 6P. It used to run on the Google Nexus 9 tablet as well. I was running it on there for a while. That is no longer a supported device from the Copperhead developers. Luckily, this really adorable man, the one in the pink shirt that says Brian Lunduke hates me, sent me a Nexus 6P to test it out on. It was really nice. Thank you, Taras Balog of the OpenNMS project and OpenNMS for sending this on in. Much appreciated, and that shirt really does look great on you, my friend. The story behind that shirt, Taras Balog, really cool dude. He was on a show I used to do a long time ago, a show that I missed, and my co-hosts ended up interviewing him. And then, so we missed each other then. And then it seems like there was like one or two other events like in a row where the two of us were supposed to be in the same place in the same time, and we never were. And so he started like making this joke about oh, I guess we'll never meet. And then we were both at OzCon. We were both at a conference. I'm like, darn it, Taras, we'll actually get to hang out this time. And so he was walking around asking people like, you know, where's Brian? And I was walking around saying, hey, anyone seen Taras? And so people are like, oh yeah, Brian was just here. And it became a running joke. And so he had t-shirts printed up that said Brian Lunduke hates me in pink. You can't go wrong with that. Anyway, he sent me this phone to test out a current version of Copperhead OS on, so I really appreciate it. Now, if you don't have anything googly, then you got to get your application somewhere, and you got to do that via F-Droid. F-Droid is the way to go for that sort of thing. Now, technically, you can do other ways, but F-Droid's like an open source version of the Google Play Store. It is a package manager, nice graphical package manager for open source and free software only Android applications. And you can get F-Droid on your normal Android-based smartphone or tablet. That's fine as well. But when we're talking about Copperhead, it's your lifeline. It is where you go to. And it's not perfect, but it works fairly well. And luckily, you can still sideload APKs. And APKs are, you know, how you install an Android application. And you can get those APKs from a variety of different places. Hopefully, the publishers of free and open source software make those APKs available so you can actually sideload them on. And by sideload them on, I really mean download them onto the device and install them directly. There's an option, a setting in Copperhead OS, just like in Android, where you allow applications to be installed from third-party sources. Once you enable that, you can install pretty much whatever you want. Now, with Copperhead and installing these applications, you do get better security because there's no closed source services running on your system. So everything is auditable. You know you can look at the code for anything. Also, there's much better sandboxing. Better SE Linux configurations, much tighter control, better sandboxing. It's just generally a more secure system, and they tend to backport in security features quickly from modern Android releases back into Copperhead OS very, very quickly, which means you're much more likely to get those rapid security improvements much quicker, which is nice. I mean, it's not an end-all be-all, but still, any improvement to security is not a bad thing overall. But the core beyond the security is really that you're not using Google. That's the whole point of this. And it is fast. It is very, very fast. Now, I've thought about how to do this, and I thought about showing me using the device, and it's right here. But you guys know what Android looks like, and there's no difference at looking at it between Android and Copperhead. It looks the same. It's friggin' Android. It's got the same design. It's got the same layout. Everything's the same. The only thing that's not there are the googly bits. But the system itself is fast. In fact, the system itself is stable and faster, in my opinion, than Android. Now, why do I say in my opinion? Because I've done no benchmarks. It's just from my own personal experiences, it seems much faster. And that makes sense. It's logical. There's less total services running because it doesn't have all of those Google services running all the time. They're gone. They're gone. They're not in there anywhere to be found. There's no Google Play Store, Google Play Services, translating things, blah, blah, blah. None of that's there. None of the thing where you say, okay, Google, what time of weather it is. None of that's in there. And so it is. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit faster system. Now, the availability of free and open source software inside of F-Spot and elsewhere is really a mixed bag of craziness. There's some fantastic applications that make your mobile life wonderful, just delightful and wonderful. And there's a lot of garbage, a whole hell of a lot of garbage. It's a hot mess, is what I'm saying. It really is. And this is coming from a free software guy. I want this to be wonderful. However, it is really all over the map. For example, there's no official social media applications, period. Right? There's no Twitter or Facebook or Google Plus or anything else. There's no sanctioned applications for any social media site. There are some applications that work well. Twidere, Twidere is great. It supports both Twitter and Mastodon. Mastodon is a nice free software, decentralized social network that's part of that works with StatusNet. Which is great, and it works well for that. So you do have options. It is good quality, but you're not going to have Twitter, which means if things change to the Twitter service, your service might not work anymore via that application, and that is a real pain in the butt. That's just how that goes. The browsers are also difficult. Chromium is there by default, but I don't like Chromium all that much. Lately I've been preferring Brave, and Brave is available for Android, but the Brave isn't available in F-Droid or anywhere else. I mean, you can't just go grab the APK easily enough. There's no commercial games. There's no YouTube application. Well, kind of. You're not going to get your banking application through F-Droid. There's no Hangouts. There's no Skype. There's all sorts of stuff missing. All sorts of stuff. The commercial games, though, if you have Humble Bundle, the Humble Indie Bundle, if you've bought some of the Android games through there, most of them, but not all, will work if you install the Humble Bundle APK and then use that to download and install app games that you've bought through the Humble Bundle onto your system, but then you've got closed source on your system, so you've sullied up this beautiful Copperhead OS with some closed source. But then again, it's games, and I really like games, so that's a really hard one. But that is one possible way to get at least some commercial quality games on there, is via the Humble Bundle app. There are some great applications, though, and I'm going to go through some of the best applications that I've found for putting on Copperhead OS to make it a really enjoyable experience. The first is Termux, Termux. It is a terminal emulator with packages. It basically gives you a nice little Shrewd environment, all terminal, all text-based, to do whatever you want. Do your email, whatnot, take notes, Emacs. It's all in there. And it's a nice open source project that gives you a great little Linux terminal right on your Copperhead OS based phone. It's quite nice for that. I do like it quite a lot. And if you get that, I highly recommend the Hacker's Keyboard. Hacker's Keyboard basically replaces the built-in keyboard. That way you can have things like arrow keys, function keys, all the nice little keys you need when working inside of a terminal. You got, tab and control and everything else. You get that, and the escape key. Oh my God, you need the escape key. You need those sorts of things. And the default googly, Android-y keyboard just doesn't cut it for that. So, Hacker's Keyboard, also free, also available in F-Droid. Twidir, I mentioned before, it's the way to go for social networking. Though if you do primarily use Mastodon, Tusky is a great one. It's a great client just for the Mastodon social network, though Twidir supports both Mastodon and Twitter, so I don't know that you necessarily need both, but I do like Tusky a lot. If you want to have mapping, there's no mapping by default inside Copperhead. So you put it on your phone, put it on your tablet, or I guess just phones now. It doesn't support any tablets currently. There's no maps. OSMand.net. Go get the APK directly from there. It'll let you use the OpenStreetMap project, and you can download it to store it locally, or you can hit it remotely via the server to do directions, mapping, look stuff up. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. I use it. The directions get a little funky every now and then, but I've tended to get into the cycle now where I look stuff up on OSMand and I look it up in there, kind of figure out my map, put it away, and then reference it when I need to. I don't really use it for live directions much because it didn't work all that well. But for mapping and general mapping and directions, it does work pretty good. Gaming works great, however, especially if you're an emulation kind of guy. If you want, you can get the APK for ScumVM from scumvm.org. It's not an F-Droid, but you can grab it from their website. Runs great on Copperhead, and that lets you play all the old adventure games from, King's Quest and Space Quest and Leisure Suit Larry to Maniac Mansion and Day of the Tentacle and Full Throttle and all that stuff play great on this device. And it's all free and open source software, which is just downright delightful. Also, you gotta get Videoland. Just like on the desktop, VLC is a must, and you can get the APK from videoland.org. Again, it's not available in F-Droid, but you gotta go download it from videoland.org, because then you've got an actual honest-to-goodness video player. That's just a lifesaver. It plays everything. It's friggin' Videoland. Now, once you do all that, you've got a highly usable system for playing videos, for, doing all your email, for most things that you would use any Android device for. There's a few things missing. You're not going to get a lot of the commercial applications that rely on Google Play services, especially like banking applications. You're not going to get those. It's just not going to work. You're going to be using the website via Chromium or the mobile version of Firefox or something like that. And that works well enough for what it is, right? As long as you're willing to look past that, what you've got here is a more secure Google-free phone. And the improvements that need to be made here aren't in Copperhead OS itself. In fact, Copperhead OS is fantastic. It's fast, it's stable, it has everything, probably more, than I need in my mobile OS. What's really missing is improvements to the application land, right? Of the applications that are available. 2 improvements that need to be made to make it a much better experience. The first is making F-Droid a little less buggy. It's a little buggy. It works pretty well. I can install applications using it. I can update applications using it. But all too often it kind of wigs out. It gets a little slow. Sometimes it crashes and in weird states. It's never unrecoverable. It's never that huge of a problem, but it does take away from the end user experience. It's still very doable though. The second thing is that just simply more open source applications need to be available. And this isn't a matter of more open source applications need to be developed. It's simply that more need to be published in a way that you can install it outside of the Google Play Store. For example, the Brave web browser. It's open source, right? For whatever reason, perhaps it's reliant on Google Play services that it probably shouldn't be. Perhaps they just haven't thought of it. Perhaps there's some other technical issue. It's not available on either F-Droid or from their website. Now, there are great applications like Wire. I use Wire as an instant messenger all the time. Wire publishes the APK. So right from their website, you can go download it just like you can with VideoLAN or ScumVM and so many other great applications. We just need more of those. So many more. There's a lot of open source and free software applications in the Google Play Store that don't have APKs available from the publisher or through F-Droid. Now, you could theoretically use some sort of dodgy, iffy sort of websites that there's a lot of them out there that kind of clone the APKs in the Google Play Store. But those don't make me terribly comfortable. And my phone, if I'm running Copperhead, part of the benefit there is security. I don't really want to go download a binary from a place that I don't know, from a place that has no reason to build my trust. I want to download it from the publisher, or I want to download it from F-Droid. That's what I want. And so more things like that need to happen. I think once that happens, honestly, I'd have no hesitation telling people just run Copperhead instead of stock Android, because there's no real benefit to stock Android unless you are just completely sold on only using the Google Play Store and services from here until the end of time. But if you've broken free of most Google services, what's the benefit, right? I don't use Google Maps. I don't use Hangouts except for the very rare occasion that someone that I'm doing a show with wants to use Hangout for video chat. So what do I need Google services for? I don't. I absolutely do not. So Copperhead really works. In fact, this is a really nice experience. This is probably the nicest experience I've had with a phone in a long, long time. I mean, it reminds me a bit of when I used to have an N900. And an N900 was a Debian-based phone. It had flexibility. It had completely open source. Well, not completely. It was mostly open source and free software. And it was, because of all that, it was a little more secure. And there were downsides to it. You know, maybe a little less of the common iOS, Android applications were available. And I dealt with that. But then I had the extra benefits available of all the cool open source stuff. And that made it worthwhile. And for me, honestly, Copperhead fits that bill pretty well. For a while, I've been thinking maybe it's time for me to ditch phones again. Maybe it's time to ditch cell phones entirely. Honestly, this has got me second guessing that. Is this totally secure? No. So many security issues with this, not least of which is that it just uses a friggin' SIM card. No, it's not a secure thing in life. But it's better. It's better than some. Maybe it's good enough for me. I don't know. But it's quite nice. And if I had a device right now running Android that was one of the supported phones, I would, in a heartbeat, flash Copperhead onto there, because why not? Now, if you want to support the show, you can buy t-shirts. You can go over to lunduke.com. You can buy t-shirts. You can buy books such as The Fancy Linux is Badass, or Half a Decade of Linuxy Shenanigans. The Lunduke articles 2012 to 2017 are both available from lunduke.com right now, as well as Linux Sucks cups, because you need a cup and you need it to say Linux sucks. And this show is also sponsored in part by System 76, makers of Linuxy laptops, Because if you want a secure open source phone, you probably want a secure open source laptop as well. And what better people to get it from than System76 at System76.com and Lulzbot. You need a 3D printer. You know you're nerdy. A good nerd needs a good 3D printer, and Lulzbot are the best. You can find out more over at lulzbot.com. Also, that's just a great name for the lulzbot.com. Big thanks to all my Patreon supporters. All of you are fantastic. All of you make this possible, and I love every single one of you. Here's a small list of the top tier Patreon supporters. There's a few more now. I need to add you guys in. There's over 500 of you last count. Love you all, and you make this possible. This show, it's here because of you. Thank you, everybody. Be sure to subscribe over at YouTube, because why not? Help me out over at Patreon. Toss me a buck or two. Just go to lunduke.com, where you can grab the audio RSS feed for every single episode I produce. And that's all for now. I'll see you guys later.